All right, today's podcast, I get a little vulnerable with Steven Pope, one of the biggest names in Amazon marketing, where we talk about AI and content generation. I hope you guys enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So like we do a lot and we see everybody in our world like evolving in AI, and I'm like, wow, that's insane. How do I incorporate this in the agency world, which I don't see a lot of, especially in the e-commerce world, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of agency owners see it as conflicting, I guess, with their model a little bit. So there's, you throw bodies at everything in an agency, right? Can you tell me a little bit about your agency?
Yeah. We've been around, we're super small. Obviously, we like to dabble in a lot of things, but we're based out of Utah. We've been around since 2018 is when we started like, well, let's do it as a
That's
side
the year
thing.
I started, by the way.
On yours, see?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're about the same size. No, I'm just kidding. We definitely aren't. And I've always just worked on like with the big brands myself. And then last year I said, you know what, I'm going to just go full time in it. And so we went full time in it, grew the 3PL, grew the agency, moved into this building in July last year. And that's when it started really taking off. And so I was like, oh, I should have committed a long time ago. But yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize it was 2018 that you started.
Yeah, April 2nd. So I'm coming right up on my anniversary here. So the first thing I did when I launched it was make a LinkedIn post, and then I had my first client in the first 48 hours. So I've been a content guy from day one. I grew up in North Salt Lake, by the way, too.
Okay. Yeah. No, big follower, obviously. So a little bit of, I know kind of where you were from, but I didn't know it was Salt Lake. So that's cool. You're not here anymore though, right? You're not in Utah anymore?
No, I haven't been in Salt Lake in 14 years, give or take.
Oh, so it's been a minute. I'm not native here. I'm from Hawaii originally, and then I got stuck here. So I was like, man, does that to you, I guess.
Well, I mean, you went from beaches and sun to snow and sun. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, snow and sun. Yeah, exactly, and everything in between. So
what kind of tech AI do you use today? I mean, obviously ChatGPT and whatnot, but like what do you use today?
I'm heavily into Codex right now. Codex. I've kind of moved that direction because I started off with like, let's do Claude Code and let's do co-work and Perplexity Computer. So a lot of just, I don't want to be rude, but it's like, okay, anybody could do that. And I wanted to understand it more. I'm not a developer by all means. And Codex forced me to like understand the hierarchy of development and making sure I push myself there. So all of this, I'm trying to not be a vibe coder. I'm trying to actually understand it a lot more, right? And so Codex has pushed me to like force myself to build my environments and understand the implications of certain things and actions. And so that's my go-to right now has been Codex. And then eventually we'll probably move into like a little tiny, Mac Mini, and let it run all of our operations out of it. But
that's a dream, right? Can you impact me a little bit on what you were saying where it forced you to learn? I'm curious.
So like a lot of what I've learned when I first started with like in vibe coding and like people who design websites and Lovable and stuff like that, they get, I would say they get 50% of the way there visually. It looks great. And they say they've done it. They've created an app. But then you dig a little deeper, it's like, you actually didn't do anything. And I found myself saying the same thing. I'm like, hey, help me build this system. And I really needed to put a little bit more education behind the development side. And so I can speak the language that drives it forward, that other 50%. And so utilizing Codex for me has been that way to like, I understand development better. And I'm by all means not there, but help me like, okay, I have to do a little bit more research through GPT and through some, just chatting with my network to understand how this is actually working. What does it mean actually? Because you could just tell it to do something, but what is it actually doing? What is this agent and sub-agents performing so I can better use them? That's what I mean.
I appreciate you impacting that. It's just, that was a unique entry point for me. So what's your problem then? Like, what do you want to solve, or how could I help?
Like our biggest thing, and one is I'm very operational driven. I am not a content guy, right? And you obviously have been very content driven. I'm very, give me the Excel sheets. Let's look at the numbers. I want to see the operation side of things. How can I, really dig deeper into this? And so I'm trying to overlay how you utilized AI. And I mean, I know you have your sales program, but in your sales and then in your operation side, and how you blend those two together. Because I find it where, I laugh at every M dash I see now on LinkedIn, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm already so fearful of coming across fake. That's why I just don't post on LinkedIn and like needy and fishing for, something. And I'm like, but I also want to be able to share my knowledge and be able to share my successes. And I fight this inside of me. So AI has only like made that worse because I'm like more fearful of doing it. So, so I'm like, I'm stuck in this terrible thing right now. But yeah, that's my problem.
All right, so let's start the discussion there. So I would say not posting is worse than being fake, which sucks to hear, right?
Yeah, right. I know.
You got to start somewhere. But the good news is you're not fake, right? So like the soundbite that you gave on how you're tackling AI is tremendously interesting. Like that should be your next post, right? Depending on your goals with content, of course.
Right.
But like you explaining how you had to enter into AI and teach yourself, that's the journey that everybody wants to be a part of.
Yeah.
Right. Do you see how when you started talking about how I got interested, that's how you know it's good content. Right?
Okay.
If you're promising, get promising questions from it. This is more non-AI answer first, because I think it's important to start there sometimes. When it comes to content, you should always answer your customers' questions, right? So like the endless amounts of questions come in, right?
Every day, thousands of emails a week, it feels like, right?
Okay. So you can use the AI to document all of those questions if you want, create some patterns and try and get the FAQs done first. But you're a founder, you already know that by heart.
Yeah.
So when the question comes in, I'll give you a challenge right off the bat. We're 8 minutes into this conversation. I'm giving you a challenge already. The next question that comes in, make it into content, no matter what the question is.
Okay.
And that you can choose the content form, but I would recommend do video for 3 to 5 minutes. Send that to the customer. They're going to love it, first of all. And then second of all, post it on your YouTube channel, LinkedIn, etc. Customer asked ABC. Here's my answer. Here's why this matters. Now, what you're going to find interesting is this piece of content is going to get like 100 views. And you'll be like, Steven's an idiot. And then what will happen next, though, is that you'll have 3 people calling you saying, I had that exact problem. Can you help me?
Right.
And then you're going to sign one of the 3. And then you'll realize, whoa, this is a content genius strategy. I don't need views. I just need to post my customer questions and answer them.
Yeah. Because it'll get to that 1, 2, 3 people, even
Right.
though it only got 100 views, but we're all chasing this. Oh, the views. Oh. Okay.
So throw vanity metrics out. Just think of it like doing service for your current customers, and you happen to make it into content. I think that'll overcome your fear of fakeness too. But you might have a secondary challenge of like time investment. I don't know how fast you type, but that's why I suggested like a 3-minute video to start.
Yeah.
Because you can answer almost any question that quickly. But what tends to happen is once you get going, you keep going.
Right.
And that 3-minute original idea becomes a 10-minute piece of content very quickly. Then you can use AI to chop it up into a post. You can load it into literally any AI right now and say, hey, turn what I said into a coherent LinkedIn post in the style of pick anybody who makes content, whichever style you like. And then it will do that.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy how easy it sounds right now, but you're right. Like I'm a terrible typer, but I should be like at least putting that out there every day. And
so your quest here, second part of the main challenge is 10 minutes on content every day, right? So customer question comes in, shoot a 3 to 5 minute video. Then the next 5 minutes is posting it, right? And I think you'll be surprised to learn how much impact that's going to have.
Yeah. Utah is such a beautiful place because I'm surrounded by a bunch of like founders and entrepreneurs. And
this is content, by the way. This is content right here.
Right here, right? I'm gonna write it down. Like I am surrounded by them right now. And this event center, I thought like, oh, we're gonna move into this place. We're gonna host it. I have massive brands coming here, and I'm gonna just bring the clients and the content here. And I found it way more difficult because the people I brought in, I'm like, oh man, you guys are awesome. I'm a nobody. I don't want to post this. I don't want to like shake hands and bump shoulders. And I'm like, I'm not a little dude either, but I'm like, oh, I feel so small right now.
You ever watch the Diary of a CEO?
Yes.
Okay. That dude was a nobody. And then he started making content and became somebody.
Which I would never have guessed that.
right?
That dude was a nobody.
Yeah, he was originally, right? And then it snowballed, right? He gets famous enough, and then he gets some money. One of his businesses takes off. I mean, he was a business guy too, but like nobody knew that until he made content, right? But the reason I like one element of his style that I think he's like the best in the world at, and that is simply asking questions that lead to good content. That's it. That's his skill set, in my opinion. I don't think he ever says anything smart. I don't think he's ever blown my mind with anything that's come out of his mouth. But what has happened is that he just simply went and asked great questions that I would have asked, that other people would ask, and then he teased them up. That's it. And you'll notice that his guests go on like 8-minute monologues all the time, every question, and he never cuts them off.
Yep. He just starts it and steps back, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and he probably only has to write down 8 questions going in an interview. So I know he does a ton of prep. It's clearly well prepped, but like, and how do you choose the right 8 questions? Yada, yada. But I don't think you need to position yourself as an expert is really why I mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't started a podcast or anything, right?
No, I've tons of ideas of it, but yeah,
do you want to?
100%, yes.
Okay. What kind of podcast do you want to do?
It's not honed in on anything particular. I've already got the domain and we got the space. I just am so scared to like start. I do everything else except for start, basically. But it's it's called Tales of the Undefeated, and we just talk about e-commerce undefeated stories. We talk about personal stories where you're undefeated, and though you feel defeated, if you're still here, you're not out, kind of thing. And so that's the whole premise of it.
I think that's fantastic. It's a great brand, great name. And since you're so scared, I happen to be recording this conversation. I'm going to send you this video, and you could make this your first episode.
I would laugh. Yeah.
I'm serious. Like, you could make this your first episode, and it already like positions exactly what you're trying to do, right? Like your whole premise is about how to get going, how to be undefeated. But if you're defeated unless you start, right? That's episode 1.
Yeah.
And then it's an episode about talking about starting, right? And how many people does that resonate with? Everybody.
Yeah. Everybody I could think of. Yes.
Yeah. And so, tying that back to Steven's Diary of a CEO podcast, his first 10 episodes were just him monologuing about, I don't even know what. He deleted them.
Yeah. He's like, no, watch it.
So if you get famous and you have to go back and get rid of your cringe content, which I never will delete my first 10 episodes, by the way. But if you did, you can, and nobody's going to care.
Right.
Like, so sometimes we get in our own heads, right? So it's like I'm the one asking you questions, but I'm also like the speaker here, like feeding into this. But okay, so I think it's a great podcast. I really do. And because you've got and going back to that Hawaiian in a Salt Lake City vibe question, like that's just interesting to people. Like people are going to want to know what kept a Hawaiian moving to Salt Lake City. Right? They're going to want to know that. That could be content just to get like the human interest story going of like, why do people care about David? Like, where's his origin? Right. And then you're a laid back guy, just like Steven, probably because you're from Hawaii. Right. And so you're going to be a good question asker.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I have a lot of questions.
Let's hear them.
Right. Well, one for you actually has been, and another fear of mine is like, all right, you have my agency guy, and I'm like, I know exactly what's going to be in here, and it's going to be content. And I'm like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. So like, that's a big thing for me. And I'm like, I need to coordinate that. I'm so operational. I'm very like, if you look at an Excel sheet, that's how my brain works, is basically X, Y axis of data and how I need to do that. And content building for me and creativeness goes almost out the door when it comes to that. It's like, how do I fit this in an XY axis? And until I find it and I try my best, I always get just like, oh, well, there's a kink I can get so far until it comes to like, it's too creative. It's good. It's out the door kind of thing. And so is that true? Basically,
I would challenge the premise of that question. I think like, does that matter? Right? Like, because you're real, you're real, that you want to talk to other real people, right? You're anti-AI, non-human content, right? That's a position to take. By the way, I'm the same. And I've taken a very anti-AI framework for the last 2 or 3 years. However, I now think AI is ready, like just barely, just
Yeah.
barely. Like for the first time in the last week alone, my content team was able to make a post that I thought was better than what I could make personally.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's 2026. And we're one of the things I'm doing is I'm reposting Jeff Bezos videos, and I got like 600 likes in the first 24 hours just based on how we are reposting Jeff Bezos videos, because it was a video about how bad ideas don't kill companies, too many good ideas do. And everybody wants to talk about that, right? Everybody. So finding that angle is interesting in itself. But I think you'll solve this problem by asking questions and answering them, right? Or answering your customers' questions. So I think you're going to be undefeated if you put a framework in place that becomes your XY axis, right? So like, should you make a piece of content? Yes, no. Here's your XY. Did a customer ask this question? If yes, content.
You're hitting it right now. Yep.
I can speak to the XY.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And then I get one thing I was like, sell me on my agency guy, because that's been, I think about it every week. You know what I mean?
So the bad news is I discontinued it.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, because it costs more to run than I was getting in sales. And so my agency guy was built to help other agencies. With AI coming out so strong now, what we've learned and determined is that the content and how to run the companies is actually the most valuable asset now. And so for us to sell that, other people are going to be able to turn that into an agent. And then we determined that the value of that was too high to sell now. So we're pivoting into creating agents for companies and creating a reoccurring revenue model. So for example, if you told me you had XYZ problem, I'd say, cool, I have all of these systems already pre-built for that. Pay me $4,000 a month. We'll solve that for you. And it's plug and play. And that's kind of where I'm pivoting now versus just selling the SOPs, which are great, but still, in your own admission, overwhelming, right?
Yeah. Like I still got to perform the actions, right? I still got to implement. So yeah.
So by us doing it this way, though, we can custom build something really quickly, but also apply our, what is it now, 8 years of practical knowledge of running an agency with 2,500 SOPs. And I think, this is where a lot of the AI wars are going to be won. Like, here's why I think Google's going to win the AI war. They have the most content. They have the most tech, the most storage. And a lot of other AIs don't. Like Twitter does. That's like Grok. We can make fun of it. We could bash Elon if we want. I know a lot of people will, but I think that his talk square, where people congregate, is unmatched except by maybe Reddit.
Yeah.
And Reddit's, fake. And Twitter is kind of real, right? Like that's the big difference between the two, where, like Reddit mods are, sitting in their mom's basement and getting interviewed by Fox and looking like retards. But over on Twitter, you got a name and a face. And so it's more real. That's why I think Twitter is going to be crushing it. Reddit's going to make money and license its content, sure. But at the end of the day, if we were looking at the chart of power versus force, I'm a big fan of that. Reddit's a force. It's too modded. It's too what's the curated. Whereas the power of Twitter is unparalleled. It's going to be opened up to everybody. So that's my opinion on where AI is going.
That's interesting. I've never heard the power versus force of, especially that Reddit versus X. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so the power versus force chart. So at the bottom of force, we've got like, these are non-forceful things: guilt, shame, anxiety, right? And you have a little bit of anxiety. So that kind of resonates, right? As you go up towards the middle of the chart, you're getting into neutrality, pride, courage. And courage is like kind of like the break even points of where it becomes a power. And then above that, reasonability, love, etc. Way above that. So I'm kind of shortening it down for the sake of conversation, but
sure,
power always wins long term. Like take China, for example. They have a dictatorship. It's a force. I guarantee you China will not exist in 1,000 years with the same leadership it has today. Guaranteed. Yeah. Now, granted, I don't know what the average tenure of any government is, but the power of a free society has the most likelihood to live 1,000 years from now. United States, cross the fingers, probably not. but one could hope.
Yeah, we can hope for that. Interesting. Yeah, that's a great point. I like that. And so the future of agencies right now, and I mean, yeah, I'm getting rid of costs with AI left and right.
Yes,
It's
and you
it's
need
insane,
to.
right? Like it's insane how much already I'm like, yes, replace, replace. There's a few anchors are we use ClickUp heavily. I'm very deep into it. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I can move away from that without rebuilding a lot. It'll take some time, but it is in the books. But without that, I think almost everything else. Is there anything I'm overlooking? Like what? Like I'm overlooking a lot with AI's capability right now, and I'm overlooking it because it's so fast. I'm still 2 weeks ago, you know?
Yes, I think that's pretty average right now. You're
Okay.
you're you're the feeling is average. You're actually ahead of the curve in terms of the engaging and what you're doing, but the feeling is pretty normal. Tell me if you can share like one or two problems that you've solved with AI
Mhm.
and like what, throw a dollar figure on it if you can, if you're willing. And that might help spur that next conversation.
The first thing I built right now, and we're um, ebb and flow between operations and sales, like client management and client acquisition. And so we're client acquisition at that point. I was like, all right, I need to get rid of external salespeople. I need to get rid of, these tech guys that will run. We do a lot of cold outreach. It's kind of how we built the business because I'm scared of obviously content. And so we're changing that.
You did the harder thing first. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Let me turn this off real quick. So I basically was able to build a outreach portal and it pulled data, pulled it into our ICP list. It was able to then audit that ICP and get it into our automated outreach of cold emails and warming them up. And then from there, it was able to pull and scrape all of their Amazon and website data to help put together a sales deck and that we would audit. And it did this within, 30 seconds. It was able to connect all of the dots for us immediately. That in itself was probably 15 to maybe 1750, so $1,500 in savings a month just through that entire pipeline. I was like, that's just scratching the surface. And then I go in and say, oh, where's everything else? So that's my initial one. I'm like, sales, and then I'm delving into everything else from customer support agents we run 3PL as well, and that's a different beast, but being able to connect our own app API between our shipping software is also within their Shopify store to quickly answer a question versus I have to pay somebody 15-20 bucks an hour to go resolve that for me. That's almost like I can't even think how much I'm not even saving there yet. So those are a couple of examples.
So the finding of information to answer questions, I think, is a very easy use case. I think other people can replicate that very quickly. Like, did you find that info out of ClickUp or one of your other portals, or like where was the info stored that you were seeking when you prompt the bot, I guess?
So it's usually sitting we have a shipping software. So it's either sitting in the shipping software or within their Shopify order flow. So one of
Like a customer question, like a
customer question.
order issue or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or from a client itself, it's like, hey, this order didn't get shipped yet. It's like, well, that order didn't get shipped yet because it's actually getting shipped out of here, or there's a hold on inventory, and it's an immediate response versus somebody going and investigating each one of those.
Got it. Okay, so customer service AI makes sense. Love that. Okay, how did you use AI for sales though? That's unique. That's I think the hardest one to crack, honestly.
For us, it was like, well, where do we start with sales? How do we find our ICP? How do I find their challenges? How do I find that ICP that overlays with all of our other offerings, from our shipping software to 3PL to our agency? And we basically defined that perfect ICP and then was able to go utilize all these other databases that could help, determine that. Apollo, Instantly, what was the other one that we Zoom Info, and then we tapped into their API to then hone that in. It would pull that into. Are you aware of like Clay?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're trying to basically remake just a very trimmed down, made for us version of that. So then it just pulls in that data, finds emails, searches LinkedIn,
All right, so lead gen,
basically lead gen, and then throws that into a custom email campaign for them, and then also outreaches them via LinkedIn and email, etc.
So you're actually pretty advanced based on that. So now that I understand like what you've accomplished, I got to tell you, you could accomplish pretty much anything if you've already done those two things. Like those, yeah. So that's the good news and the bad news, right? You still don't feel confident because it's changing so fast.
Mhm.
That might just be like a personal challenge that you might have. Like maybe what you like on a personal level, maybe you just need a lifestyle coach to just rev you up, or maybe like I don't know if you have a partner in the business that's like your psych guy. I don't know.
I need one. I need a psych guy for sure.
And when I said psych guy, I meant like the guy that like psychs you up, not like psychologist angle.
No.
But like, so now that I understand that, like, what problem do you want to solve next?
Well, I mean, I feel like I've put in, like you said, I appreciate it because I'm like, I don't think anybody's doing this, but I try to be humble. Like, no, man, there's so many people out there doing it. There's a handful for sure. But I don't feel like I'm seeing the results. I feel like my clients themselves are struggling, and
They are.
and
That's market condition.
Okay. And that on top of the amount of effort to try and learn and be on top of AI, plus the instant or lack of that instant gratification of client success and client onboarding and that, market condition has really affected me. I'm like, man, why am I not seeing the success? Even though, maybe exactly.
Okay. I think the solution to this, and this again, I'm 30 minutes into this, so take it for what it's worth, is to build solutions that help your customers, right? Like, so when you, I gave you a couple of challenges. One of your homework definitely needs to be to use the AI to create the FAQs. Like, if you have every customer email, I don't know how big you are, how many emails you have, or how many customer inquiries, but let's say all of them. Can you put all of them into the system to create the FAQ, create trend lines? Create this list, and then whatever you build next, address their problem, right? Like this is using AI to solve the actual business acumen, which every business should be doing already, right? These three questions should be asked to every customer all the time, as much as often, like once a quarter, every customer you talk to. What should I stop doing? What should I start doing? What should I do more of? Start, stop, more. And you can now use AI to address that very quickly without talking to the customer every single time. Although in any surveys you give your customers, you should be asking those three questions. I don't care what kind of business you're in, you should always be asking those three questions.
For sure.
But I think if you find out that like 30% of your clients all have this one unsolved problem, you're going to make your next product based on that.
I see.
Or you'll tweak your current product, right? Like if you don't have issues like this because you're a tech genius already, but like if they had an issue logging in and you're like, holy crap, we've had 123 inquiries in the last 90 days about logging in. You'd already know this without AI because your head's to the ground, ear to the ground, but you could then figure out how to fix that very quickly. But you're going to know very quickly yourself on where your customer problems are. And then the AI solution will just hit you immediately. You'll just instantly know. You're like, well, you don't have to think about it. You'll just know.
Yeah, like this is what we need to build next. This is the way to go.
And since you like data and you throw this into an Excel sheet and you rank it, you won't even argue about it. Like it'll be so obvious. You'll take it to your team and be like, here's what the data says. Let's go.
Right. My fear is I'm like too influential. I'm like, you guys want to go against the data? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess that's just what the direction we're moving into. I'm like, I need you to think about this though, right? Like make sure I'm not the only one calling the shots, and it's how it is. And maybe how do you deal with that? Like you're up here and when you don't.
Yeah. So I always call the shots, at least historically, right? I'm a very different Steven Pope today, post-divorce than I was pre-divorce. So, but pre-divorce, I called every shot, like all the shots.
Yeah.
And I'd say I get 60% right. And honestly, I'll give you the same soundbite Elon Musk probably gave at some point, which is it doesn't matter if I get 40% wrong. I've already made 100 decisions faster than the next guy. And getting a wrong decision is collecting more data to correct it to get to the right decision. Still faster than the next guy, still measuring or sharpening his axe twice before he makes the first cut. Right. Just based on talking to you, I know that you're a very thorough, slow beat guy. And you probably measure 3-4 times before you cut. And it's going to be difficult for you to challenge yourself on that. And you want the input to go together. You're not a cutthroat CEO. You're just not. And that's okay.
You could tell. I'm really good and unfortunately had to in all my career. Like I was the person that would have to fire people, right? And so I countered a lot of that. I had to be the guy to let people go. And I made those decisions, but I counter that in my day to day by being like overly nice, right? Because when the day comes where I have to be that guy, and then it's going to happen. But you're right. It makes me like think. I always take it to heart too. It's always my fault. Like I could have done better.
You've got the extreme ownership down pat, and that's a great core value to have.
Okay. No, I appreciate it.
So based on what I know about you, or at least as I understand, you probably need to commit yourself to very specific deadlines or very specific routines, because the bleeding heart will violate your own XY axis. You're an interesting person because you're a data guy with a heart, and that's rare. That's really rare.
Yeah, I met the real ones, and man, they're ruthless. So.
And that could be why, right? Like you've been burned, you've dealt with the venture capitalist assholes and the private equity jerks, and so you know better. So it makes you a good human being. But because of that doubt that sets in, right? Like you're like, well, you do know best, but you're not sure. You need that like affirmation, and that's going to be very difficult to fill, especially with AI, because you think AI is fake, and ChatGPT is like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, David, do that.
Yeah, oh, yeah. They're always patting my back. Yep.
That's not a tech solution, unfortunately, right? Like I got curious. I'd like, what would it be like to have an AI therapist? Let me just test this out. 10 prompts later, like, this is stupid.
This is dumb. Like, I'm perfect. I'm the man. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. South Park did a great episode on it. If you haven't seen that one, it's very worthwhile.
Is it the one where he's texting his girlfriend and then like the AI just texts the girlfriend for him?
It might very well be the same episode. But the part of like starting a business was the part of the episode I was thinking about. And like, should I start this business that does this ridiculous thing? Yeah, that'd be a great idea. Here's how we'd go about doing it.
Okay. Maybe I got to watch that one again. Okay. You're kind of answering all of them. I like in a really good way by providing the examples that you did to help me like better understand like the positioning here.
I found this rewarding too, by the way, just based on like, just the insights and the discovery, very helpful. So, but yeah, if you come up with anything else, like hit me up. I don't think you need AI training. That's the headline. I think it's more about like the focusing on that customer. I think that's the takeaway. Right. Because if you focus on and you already knew that, right? You didn't need me to say that. But if you focus on the customer's questions, that creates the content. If you focus on the customer's questions, that creates the next product, which you develop with AI. I think that framework is the easiest XY axis you'll ever have.
Yeah.
And you could take that back to your team and they'll be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. That's what they're going to say. Well, again, I really appreciate it. Like this was cool to at least riff with you on the AI, how it's implemented, how you've implemented it. And like, hopefully I see some cool things happening with your SOPs. So as you build those tools out.
Yeah, we're doing some cool stuff. I made confidential.law, confidential with a K, and I need to find lawyers to test it out. Like it's like shelf ready. And so I'm really curious. So if you got a lawyer, send a link over. I'll email it to you. That would be like the one small thing you could do in return for me.
100%. Please send that over. That'd be amazing.
Perfect. And I will send a copy of this recording. And I was dead serious. If you want to use this as content, you have my full permission, like, and all of it. So I hope you do.
Cool. All right. Well, you'll be the first episode and we'll send you a link to it.
Sounds like a plan. And the best part about this is you didn't have to come up with some podcast preamble bullshit, right? Like you could just,
it's so hard.
Skip that part. Just get in, just replicate what we did today with the next 10 guys. Let's sit down and just talk. And
easy.
And you never have an intro.
I love that. Well,
nobody cares who you're talking to. They don't. They just want to hear what they're talking about.
Right.
So, and then put it in the title. So, all right. Well, I look forward to seeing that. Let me know how it goes, Dave. We'll see you.
Okay. Thanks, Steven.
Bye-bye.
So like